I can bet you've been on some kind of project at some point in your life where not everyone was on the same page with what's happening. This is the importance of communication and how it can make a huge difference in our projects. My name is Rob, and I'm a pure instructor and pure project manager. I've spent my career working on projects, and if there is one skill that I wish I could be better at and wish more people knew about, it is communication. So here, we're going to talk a little bit about the importance to communication to our projects, why it matters so much, and some practical things you can do to help improve your communication skills. Let's jump in and see what it's all about. Communication is crucial to projects for many reasons. This skill helps ensure that everyone involved knows what is happening and knows what is expected of them at any given point of the project. And that does sound like a simple thing, but it is a really complex and challenging thing to do in reality. For example, first you have to understand who do you need to be communicating with. Which individuals in your organization or your family or your group need to be communicated to. Next, you need to consider what kind of communication do they need. Sometimes everyone can get all the information, but many times you'll have to consider that some groups or individuals don't need the same information as other groups. For example, in your professional life, executives may not need all of the minute details that the team working on the project will need access to. For planning your family vacation, some individuals may not need to know the exact reservation number for everything, they just need to know where and when to show up. How you send this information and how you communicate it is also something you will need to consider. Some individuals may really like using text messaging. Others may like to receive an email, and still others might want to talk to you face to face in order to understand what's going on. So that simple question of knowing who needs information when suddenly becomes a lot more challenging. Now, communication benefits us in a lot of different ways. It helps ensure that the people we're communicating with are aligned on what we intend to do. And that seems simple, but over time, people can forget what the goal is or the deliverable, the thing you're trying to do. So by effectively communicating, you're helping make sure they stay on the same page and they go down the same path. It also helps reduce misunderstandings and errors. Sometimes someone may do something incorrectly simply because they didn't know what they should be doing or know about some problem that's going on. So by effectively communicating that information, you can reduce the risk that your project will bump into those challenges. Effective communication also goes beyond just making sure the work gets done. It also helps build a sense of trust and a relationship with the individuals you communicate with. That aspect of the project is crucial, as projects aren't just about work, they are about people. So helping ensure you have good working relationships with everyone involved, regardless of how deeply involved they are in the project, is very important to us as project managers. Now, communication does run into a lot of different challenges. For example, someone on the project may not understand when or where they need to show up for something. There are many examples that I can think of where either I've been late or missed a meeting entirely because I wasn't informed about it, or team members didn't realize they had to show up at a certain location at a certain time. This resulted in a lot of challenges and confusion, so properly communicating will help avoid those types of issues. Another very common challenge with communication is folks not really understanding their role on the project. Maybe you're working on a project at university, and one of the team members doesn't realize that they are responsible for performing some certain amount of research. Your whole team will suffer because of that. And that could have been solved by simply sending an email, calling them on the phone, or bumping into them in the hallway. Recently, I've been in experiences where members of my team didn't realize they were expected to follow up on certain items. And while we were able to salvage the project, it did make for some very anxiety-producing experiences that I wish I could have avoided. And not sending updates in a certain way or to the right people can also result in delays. Many times the senior stakeholders or the executives around a project need this information in order to provide things like budget or to help unblock certain things. And if those individuals don't get the updates they need, at best they'll be displeased with us as project managers, but at worst the project can suffer because that individual can't support us because they don't know what's going on. A more personal example from my life is we had an individual work on a fence near our home, and when they installed the gate to let us go through the fence, it didn't open fully, it stopped about halfway. I hadn't clearly communicated that we had to have the gate open completely to allow us to move strollers and other large items through, and so the contractor thought it was good enough to stop halfway. If I had taken time to fully communicate what we needed and be very, very clear with that, it would have avoided him having to come back and fix what had happened. So when we think of effective communication, there are a few things we need to keep in mind. The first is clarity. Are we clear with our message? Are we explaining it simply and in a straightforward fashion that the receiver can understand? Another thing we want to think about is consistency. Are we sending the same message time after time to help remind folks about what it is and make it less likely they'll somehow forget it? These regular updates might seem repetitive, but the best advice I have here is keep repeating yourself until someone tells you to stop. I almost never have anyone tell me to stop with these updates. If they do, I just adjust. But the point is to be consistent so everyone understands what's happening. Encouraging feedback and active listening, or having the person you're communicating with repeat back what they hear or understand, is another way to help your communication. This will force them to take a minute to think about what you sent or told them or written to them, and then to repeat it back. This helps ensure they understand it because they'll tell you what they heard, and maybe you made a mistake or forgot something. But this helps reduce those errors in communication that we do see. Another important tip about communication is tailor your message. The people you're communicating to aren't all the same. They have different ideas about how they should get information, or they have different needs for the amount of detail they need, or even timing on when they get it. So make sure you take a minute to step back and think about each individual or group, and either ask them what is best for them, or do your best to adjust how you communicate based on what you know about them. And here's a quick tip that you can use immediately. But if you're in doubt that the other side isn't fully understanding, take a moment to summarize and repeat that summary back to them. By phrasing it in different ways and repeating your message, you make it less likely the other person will miss out on it, and also gives them more information that will hopefully help the message sink in. Now, there's a couple other practical tips and tools that I want to share with you. Depending on the message, you're going to want to change how you send it. For example, email might be very good for formal messages. An official kickoff meeting or a final invoice is a great thing to send through email. Folks tend to expect more formalized information there, and it's something that people tend to review on a fairly regular basis, so they'll be on the lookout for these formal bits of communication. Email, however, isn't always the best for something like a quick question or confirmation. So for something like that, I like to use instant messaging, think Slack, or even a text message that I'll send to the person I'm communicating with to ask for just quick information back. Now, if you have a lot of communication going on, you might need specialized software, a project management system, to help you manage everything. And these can include features like automatically notifying people when something updates, allowing you to add to mention someone to quickly send something to people, and other ways to manage communication across very broad teams. Now that said, we don't only want to rely on technology to send communications, so make sure you're still considering meetings, whether they're virtual or in person. Getting FaceTime with other individuals is a great way to communicate, and also reduces the chance they'll misunderstand because they'll be able to see and hear you, giving them more information about the message, and usually you get to see and hear them, so you'll see if they're confused or maybe don't quite understand everything. So that is some thoughts about communication. Again, this is the one skill I wish I could do better, and I wish more people had better experience with, because it is so important to project management and honestly almost every aspect of our lives. I am curious though to know what challenges you have with communication in projects or anywhere else. Take a minute to think through a challenging experience you had with communication or questions you have, and drop a comment for us. We'll be happy to chat with you and maybe help you figure out how to move through that. And of course, if this content is interesting to you, please like and subscribe and share it with others. This really helps us understand what you want to learn and what you find useful so we can provide better content. Thank you again so much for learning about communication with me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in another one of these again soon.